Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Angle Up Pursuit podcast, your NASCAR betting and DFS home. Today, Brian and I are going to build DraftKings lineups for the FireKeepers Casino 400. We're also going to update our betting card and get you set to win for a race that NASCAR decided to move up about an hour. So we'll try and get in and out as fast as possible, get you set for the race, and we will go right into racing action.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, it's Michigan. It's time to go fast. We got practice and qualifying in the books. Appreciate everybody who is hopping on and joining us live. We are going to be doing these for the next few weeks. Unfortunately, when football season comes around, it's going to make things a bit of a challenge to do. So we'll probably go back to pre-recorded at that point. But wanted to do a few of these, see if we can get some traction and get some opportunity to interact with everybody who watches our show each and every week, which we very much appreciate. But Brian, before we dive into everything, how the hell are you? Are you ready for this week's race?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited for Michigan. It's always kind of one of my favorite tracks to watch and to bet. I mean, it's always nice when I get a track where I can bet Bubba, or we can get a little crazy with Eric Jones love at places like this. So yeah, I think there's some good values still sitting on the board, as you see as we transition over to the betting card. I have turned into Kyle from the last 2 weeks. My card is way too big as we sit right now. But before that, I'm excited to jump into this DK rostering because I think there's some amazing ways to build lineups.
It's really interesting. Obviously, there's still some value, as you mentioned, both on the betting side and on the DraftKings side. So let's just do that and jump in because I think we can build some fun lineups. Obviously, we had a good week last week, so surely we'll give everything back this week. But let's try and have some fun and see what we can do. Brian Twining, we have Kyle Larson as the most expensive driver starting 17th. Obviously, somebody who has done well when he does well, if that makes sense. Denny Hamlin starting 13th, 10-7, one of the big names from earlier in the week. Marty Party starting 5th at 10-5. Kevin Harvick, the probably going to be rostered in like 80% of a DraftKings lineup, starting 22nd, 10-3. Kyle Busch starting 8th at 10-1, and William Byron starting 7th at an even 10K. Where does your interest and first potential clicks go in this range?
It's to the double B brothers, Busch and Byron, the last guys in that 10K range. Yeah. Those are my two favorites from the top of the board here. I think both of them are going to have strong showings. Even though I was kind of downplaying the correlation between Auto Club earlier this year, Kyle Busch, like, he won that race. He looked incredible that day. He has a decent history here at Michigan. His car looked great during practice. I think he's going to have speed. I actually like him a little bit better than William Byron today as well.
Which is crazy. I mean, we talked with Derek Yoder on Wednesday? Obviously on Thursday in your feeds. Derek was big on Kyle Busch, and we were both kind of on the fence, not really sure what to make of it. His price was decent on the outright market. Obviously, it's moved a little bit. Still time to get value on that. But yeah, Kyle Busch looked good. Kyle Busch looked fast. Obviously, there's some corollary for where he's been successful and at Michigan as well. So reasons to be optimistic on him. And yeah, you might have like going up from Byron to Kyle Busch might be a little a way to get a little different, just because you're spending an extra $100. People are always like, especially when it's that close between, like, those two guys are very similar, starting a very similar range. We're both excited about both of them. So if you can save $100 to get another driver in, it's going to be easier to make that click. So it'll be interesting to see when ownership comes out, what Kyle Busch is looking like. But yeah, I like Byron. I like Busch a lot. I think for tournaments, I'll probably avoid Harvick. I am a little worried that his crew chief and just kind of his understanding of this track and his history at this track are going to do enough to get his car in position, but haven't seen a lot in practice that I absolutely love. But he is starting 22nd. Like, if we get to the end of the race and you told me he had a top 5 day, like I don't know that I would be shocked. I don't expect that to happen, but
I was just gonna say he for me, Harvick, he's almost gonna have to like luck his way into a really good finish. I mean, like you said, if he finishes 9th or 10th, that's not surprising, but even that, like it's gonna take some decent things to go his way, some weird pitch strategies or
yeah,
cautions at the right time because they just didn't have speed. SHR in general
yeah.
did not bring speed this week. And then if you caught the beginning or the end of Werme's pre-race poll, they were talking about it. Fords, they seem to have kind of missed the mark. Like, yes, Buescher and Ryan Blaney seemed fast in qualifying, but during practice, they were a little bit off from the rest of the top guns this weekend here in Michigan. So I'd be a little bit scared of diving too deep on guys like Harvick and expecting too much.
Yeah, so he's an easy fade in tournaments if you want to get to him in cash. I am a little worried that they're going to kind of Truex their way to a top 10, and I'm going to be a little disappointed that I don't have some exposure, but we'll have to see what comes around. Let's go to the 9K range where we have a bunch of interesting names. Obviously, Chris Bell, 9,800 sitting on the pole. This guy could jump out to the front, stay, obviously starting first, be in front a majority of the day and just kind of dominate. So he is somebody from a dominator perspective that makes a lot of sense. Your guy Ryan Blaney, while the Fords didn't look great across as a whole, Blaney looked really, really good, really fast. Obviously starting in the top 10, a guy that has had some good runs at fast tracks at Charlotte, some corollaries that we really like for Michigan.
Yeah.
9,700. Chase Elliott starting 10th, 9,500. You've been on him kind of all week, so we can see if he makes sense as a secondary dominator potential, or if he's just a better like top 10 bet and kind of figure it out from there. Joey Logano starting 6th. I don't think he was that great. We talked about Fords being a little bit slow, but he's another guy, especially when there's some ideas of ways to stay out, ways to pit early, ways to do different things just to get out, get track position and stay there. I trust Logano to do that. So he's probably, I don't know, we'll talk about him from a DraftKings perspective, but I think I'm just more interested in betting. Tyler Reddick starting 15th, 9,200, and Ross the Boss. You're wearing the hat this week. For what it's worth, Brian was wearing the Chris Buescher hat last week, and he ended up winning the race. So maybe that's a indictment of things to come the rest of the week. But Brian, in this 9K range, who is interesting to you? Because we have a lot of guys starting near the front, and a lot of interesting prices on guys that we kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to start off, like if you wanted to even potentially skip that entire 10K range, I don't mind going directly to Christopher Bell. Yes, he absolutely sucks at the end of races or in crucial situations in terms of pitting or just something happening. But I mean, if you're looking for an early dominator, his car was fast. Like,
Yeah,
I think he could jump out to the lead and lead a ton of laps. I mean, we're looking at a 200 lap race here. So if he kind of puts it up front and stays there for the majority of stage one, potentially wins stage one, you have all those dominator points. I just worry about the potential late. And it's kind of the reason why I like Chastain in this group. You're getting an $800 discount. He's starting on the front row. His car looked fine in practice. And, we haven't seen him qualify like this in some time. And the last time he put his car up at the front row was Nashville, where he won. I mean, so you're looking at somebody who he's heard the rumbling scuttlebutt, I guess you could say, like, oh, they've lost their juice. Like, he's up front right now. It's summertime. Everybody wants a little bit of watermelon. So I don't mind going to Chastain here as my early dominator.
I like it. I thought you were going to go with potentially skipping the 9K range as a whole. You were talking about skipping the 10K. I kind of like that move. I wouldn't fault anybody who just kind of avoids this. Of my two favorite names in this section are Blaney and Elliott. I think they're both fast, which I never like Elliott, and Blaney is always a stage 3 nightmare. So there's a lot of risk with both those guys, but I think the upside is definitely there. I think they could both potentially win this race. Starting in the top 10, I think they could get to the front relatively early, dominate some laps, but like I said, potentially win and be a factor at come the end of the race. So if I was diving into anyone here, it would be those two. I like Chastain, and to your point, like I'd much rather like Chris Werme says, get paid off when you have with guys like Ross Chastain. So I'd rather just go to the outright market where his number hasn't moved quite as much as we expected. And I'd rather get it. I don't know that I love him for DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat about this range right here.
Yeah, AK range. Bubba Wallace starting 11th, 8,800. Brad Keselowski starting 12th, 86. Chris Buescher starting 4th. Ty Gibbs, he just gets us at 8,100, and Alex Bowman at even 8K. For me, it's Bowman, but for you, who's the name or names you're excited to chat about?
For the first week in quite a while, I'm going to be right there with you. I do like Bowman's potential here, starting 20th. He was really fast in practice. Again, like one lap qualifying, that's not going to change my mind about what I saw in practice or somebody that performed well. I know I kind of down talked him earlier in the week in terms of his history here or just the way he's been running of late, but we're getting into a situation where these teams kind of know they need to start earning points. And I think it was interesting to listen to Bet the Board podcast this week with Werme and Todd Furman, and Werme and him were mentioning the fact that maybe Hendrick is now allocating the resources that they put towards Byron and Larson early in the season to get them points while Elliott and Bowman were out. And they're transitioning all that to Bowman and Elliott. And we're about to see, them become really strong. And I think it showed in practice. I think both of those guys offer good potential this week. With Bowman in particular starting so far back, your potential for placement points is huge.
Yeah, so Bowman is another guy that has a lot of like boom bust potential. Obviously, if they can get a win, they can get Bowman into the playoffs. So if they have a chance at the end to make a little bit of a push, they definitely will. That may end up ruining some lineups where he, is flirting with the top 3 or top 5, and all of a sudden he makes a decision to try and win the race, ends up finishing 14th, and not really great for your lineups. But I do like him quite a bit. Beyond there, I mean, I guess I like some Bubba, but that's about it.
I was just gonna say,
then,
obviously I'm a Bubba guy. I would say he's probably my favorite driver in the sport. He's kind of the guy that kept me apprised of NASCAR even before we started doing all these things.
Yeah.
But him and Keselowski, I like them in like the top 10 market betting wise, because I think they can get there, around that 7, 8, 9 range. But I just don't think either of those guys are really top 5 car unless they somehow kind of luck into it. And you can't necessarily play that, I mean, obviously if you're building a shit ton of lineups, go ahead.
Yeah. If you're 150 maxing and you want to have some different exposures for sure. And then we have a question in the chat about using Bell and Ross in the same lineup. I don't think I could get there. I think I'm one or the other. And potentially fading both of them, to be honest. I think there's other names I like if I'm spending up, but that's me. Let's dive into the 7K range. We have Daniel Suarez starting 14th at 7,700. Interesting to see Trackhouse finding some speed, although I don't know that I love Suarez. He's been he wasn't great in practice. Trackhouse has just been kind of a disappointment in general over the last couple months. Speaking of disappointments, Eric Almirola starting 18th. SHR car is no interest to me. Eric Jones starting 25th. Can always go for a little Eric Jones in my lineup. Austin Dillon starting 16th, 7,200. I'm not sure about that either. Richard Stenhouse Jr. though, starting 27th. I think I'll have some exposure there as we round out the 7K range. Brian Twining, are you with me on old Recce spinouts, or is this just an area to cross off and kind of avoid?
Yeah, I can't get with Ricky this week. I mean, obviously, he looked okay in practice, but I don't know. I just don't trust this guy. And I've mentioned it so many times. At tracks where it's high speed, high risk, high reward, he presents the possibility of wrecking way too high for me to try to get in on him. And I'm pretty sure he's probably going to be pretty highly rostered as well. So like if you're building limited lineups, you're going to want to try to fade some of the guys that are going to be highly rostered. And if we're going to if we like Bowman as much as we do, he's probably going to be in our lineup. I think it'd be best to avoid a guy like Stenhouse, which is kind of brings me to Eric Jones, who I like, as you'll see in the betting card. I think he's worth a small dabble, but like, again, he's going to be highly rostered. He has good history here. He looked okay in practice, but you have to think about how you're building your lineup as well, because you don't want to have too many guys that everybody else is on.
Or too many guys that have a lot of boom bust potential. You want to mitigate your risk, especially when it comes with a lot of ownership. As you mentioned, Eric Jones will be popular. He'll probably be the most popular guy from this range. Austin Dillon is the way to be a little bit different, but Austin Dillon's never a fun click, although I like it when he goes fast, but don't really love the way you're potentially getting paid off in that range. Let's talk about the 6K range, because I think there's some interesting pivots here. We have the Dinger starting 24th, who looked pretty good, 6,800. Ryan Priest starting 28th, 66. Chase Briscoe, no thank you, 6,500. Josh Berry, the 35th. Michael McDowell and Justin Haley round out the 6K range. Talk Dinger, and then anybody else in the 6K range that you think is worth mentioning.
AJ Allmendinger is my favorite driver on this slate. Starting 24th, he had the 9th and 11th best 5 and 10 lap averages during practice. Group A, Group B, throw that out the window. He was still like a top 12 car during that time. Dinger is a guy who's ran here a bunch of times. He's normally like in the teens. Colleague has been kind of up and down this year, but when you're looking at somebody who can kind of manufacture a decent run, I think Dinger kind of fits that mold. Going against what I previously said, he's probably going to be pretty highly rostered, but if I'm going to put my faith in anybody, I would much rather it be an Allmendinger over Eric Jones or Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Yep, I agree. I don't hate Ryan Priest either. Starting 28th, I think could be interesting. And what about Josh Berry? Obviously ran yesterday, running today. I think
he's all right, but those cars have been trash. If he was in the 5K range, I think he'd make a little more sense. But like 6,400, that's paying up for somebody that hasn't ran a cup car in quite some time, and
you're right.
He's never run with this team either. And this is a dramatic step down in equipment from what he was running earlier in the season, where he was okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he wasn't blowing the doors off of people in the in Hendrick equipment. So you gotta take that with a grain of salt for sure. Let's round out the rest of the groups. We have Austin Cindric, Harrison Burton, obviously Noah Gragson's out this week. Corey LaJoie starting 31st, although he's going to the back and because of repairs, but was really fast in practice. So he's somebody, and obviously we like him at higher speed tracks. We liked him at Atlanta. We liked him where he can get that vehicle going. So interesting to see. Obviously Spire just signed him to an extension, so maybe they're going to put a little more money into that. Gilliland, Austin Hill.
Love me some Austin Hill.
And Werme was talking about it on his pre-race poll because, Austin Hill's just a guy that gets the most out of a car, gets the car to the finish. Could make some sense if you're looking.
And he's another one of those guys in the same mold as Eric Jones or Ricky Stenhouse Jr., where you expect him to show up at tracks, higher speed tracks, a lot of throttle time. He's really excelled at that in the Xfinity Series, and I think he'll show well here this weekend. Probably a top 25 is what you're hoping for that $5,200.
Right, and usually we're really like, this is a really gross range. We don't want to dive into any of these names unless we absolutely have to. This week, I feel like there's 3 or 4 names that you could legitimately talk me into, and I don't think it would be that wild. I think you could find ways to get some unique combinations, get a couple guys from down here, and then go back up to the top and get a bunch of the high price guys. So
for sure, even a guy like Ty Dillon, his car is garbage, like absolute trash. But for $5,000, he's already starting at the back of the pack essentially.
Yep. Custer, I think, makes sense. Ty Dillon makes sense. Austin Hill makes sense, and Corey LaJoie. I'm good with all those guys. With that being said, Brian, let's build a lineup, potentially too, because our building time got that we usually have for post recording obviously got moved, unless obviously NASCAR and rain, man, they just cannot figure it out. They just don't know what they're doing. So with that being said, let's build a lineup. Do we want to go down and grab a cheap name or two to start it, like, because we both really like Dinger?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we can start towards the bottom first.
Okay, so let's grab Dinger, obviously. I think we grab Austin Hill.
Ooh, love it. It's gross.
And I think we grab Alex Bowman.
Beautiful.
That gives us $10K per driver the rest of the way. So we have a lot of room. We could look at Larson. We could look at Hamlin. We could look at Harvick. Or we could go with, people that we think can get to the front and make some noise. So I guess for you can have anyone in the lineup who's like tickling your fancy, potentially, any price point. Who's the name that's like, yes, I need some of that in my lineup?
I'm wearing the hat, man. I don't know what it is. I think he's gonna stay up front for a while. He did that at Auto Club too. I mean, he finished third there, but he was, in my opinion, the best car the majority of the day.
So my question is, do we want to go with the Auto Club theme and add in the guy who won the race and see if those two guys can dominate and be the conversation? Now that means not really going to JGR, not really going to Toyota, but if we want to be a little bit different, that is certainly a way to do it.
Well, and I mean, I'm not too like into the roster percentages and all that stuff, but I can assure you Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin are going to be probably the most rostered people on this slate, that they're starting outside the top 10 just based on name value and expected finishing position at a track that both of them have done pretty well. And Larson, for what it's worth, anytime he's starting where he's at, like, a lot of people are going to gravitate towards him.
Oh, for sure.
So I just kind of want to avoid those two guys in particular.
So how do you feel about Kyle Busch?
Well, you'll see it when we go over to the betting card, but for the first time, probably all season, or maybe the first couple of races of the year, I absolutely love.
Okay, he's getting the click. So that gives us basically anything else we want to do. Do we want some Larson or Hamlin, knowing that we have Busch and Chastain? Do we want to go to Harvick? Maybe he's just, I don't know.
I just don't think he's
I don't think he's
like,
yeah. Elliott, Red Dog. What are you thinking?
I'll let you go with this one because I was all about Chastain, and I kind of convinced you on the Busch.
I mean, probably the name.
I was just gonna say we could go with the Better Business Bureau and grab Bowman, Busch, and Byron. You're putting three guys inside the top 10, but there's not many better names there.
I'd rather, like, honest, as crazy as it sounds, like, with this lineup, I'd much rather go to Chase Elliott than go to William Byron. And I don't like Chase Elliott, so that tells you everything you need to know.
All right, this one's all you.
Okay. I'm going to put Chase in. I trust him. Like, I think Byron has a great day, but I think Chase just, I don't know. I'm feeling it this week, which is weird. Let's build one more lineup, but that doesn't have Ross Chastain as the dominator because I don't know. I'm a little worried on him. So let's do this. And let's make our dominator. If we don't go Chastain, I think we have. So let's do the Byron thing on this one.
Okay.
And I think I want to pair him with Bowman.
Okay.
And then I will let you take the reins for the next two. We can go any way you want. We can go with a couple cheap guys. We can go with the expensive guys. Combination of the two.
To the very bottom. Ty Dillon.
Okay.
He has one finish worse than 23 in the last 10 Michigan races. or actually the last 9 that he's run in the Cup Series. Yes, he's in crap equipment, but Spire is decent. They're not like the worst.
Nope. Do we want to double it up with a little Corey LaJoie Spire?
I mean, if we want to get funky, that
Let's.
is one way to do it, my friend.
Are you inspired this week?
Oh no.
All right, so that gives us
music.
10-7. We can do lots of stuff. Do you think Ryan Blaney can be a rocket ship?
Man.
Or do we want to go with a Joey Logano? I know you don't love him.
I don't.
But I trust him to be.
I never trust Joey Logano, but I can never get a gauge on him, and I am definitely blinded by my hatred.
All right, I'm putting Logano in, and you get the last pick. It can be literally anyone. Do we want to go with Kyle Larson just because of all the unique stuff and load up on Hendrick, or do we expect?
Yeah. Philly is telling us to put Brad Keselowski. What's funny is I actually don't hate him this week. I think he's got some decent value to the top 10 market, but
I think we do Brad or Logano. I don't think we do.
Yeah, I don't want to do both because I don't want to get too exposed to Fords, especially after hearing what Werme, who we value his opinion.
Well, I think we need both of them to kind of manufacture their way to the front. And
yeah, because I don't think Logano's going to
relying on both of them to do that seems like a bridge too far. So,
okay. Yes, yeah. Well, no, I don't think Brad's ever won here at his home track.
No, I think he's.
But I mean, if you're sticking to the RFK theme, they've been incredible. And then I also wanted to mention, like, if we're talking about being able to drive the way to a decent finish, I would much rather have Kyle Larson over Joey Logano, especially this week, because of the placement differential.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brad has never won at Michigan. The closest he's had was a second in 2020 and a second in 2018. But he's been
okay. And for what it's worth, at Fontana, Ryan Blaney looked like dog crap. But if we go back to Charlotte, which, yes, it's not a direct comparison to Michigan, completely different. But in terms of speed, Blaney qualified 8th and then came out as the best car on the day. So, I mean, if you want to take a chance on Blaney, I don't hate it, but.
I mean, we have salary, and even if we put Larson in, we have plenty. I think Larson or Hamlin are the pick.
I would much rather go Larson. I don't.
Okay.
Hamlin just kind of looked like.
Let's do it. Triple Hendios. We'll see what we can get going. Let's look at the card as we sit here. Whoa, Brian, did you get aggressive?
I told you.
Okay, so Brian has you before we started recording. You had Bubba at 16, Elliott as a top 10 at minus 134, and Elliott over Bell. That was it, right?
Yeah,
and then everything
that was
else
the only 3
added.
I had.
Huh?
What? Yeah, that was the only 3 bets I had.
Perfect. I had Willie B 10-1. I had Logano to top 10 at minus 134. Alex Bowman to top 10 at plus 180, which is nicely priced now. Eric Jones 375, and Byron over Chris Bell, which I love, and I still kind of love if you can price it accordingly, but there is a chance that Chris Bell is just a rocket ship and dominates from the jump.
Yeah, the thing about
let's talk outright.
Shorter, which doesn't make any sense to me.
What's that?
The line got shorter.
For what?
For Byron.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's just a money thing. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
So we have Chris Bell 6.5, 7. Hamlin 6.5, 7. You can get him as long as 8.5, which I kind of like at DraftKings. Martin Truex, William Byron, who got shorter. Kyle Larson inside 10-1. Kyle Busch inside 10-1.
Kyle Busch is 8.5 to 1 at Bet Rivers, and he is added to the card.
Who?
Kyle Busch.
Yeah, he was 10-1 pre-practice and qualifying, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not grabbing a piece of that. But I get it. He looked good. He looked fast. Um, Beyond Kyle Busch, is there anyone else you want to add inside the 10-1 range?
We talk about him every single week. William Byron 8.5 to 1, I think is still
Would you
good.
bet him at 7.5?
Yeah, look. We're talking about the guy who leads the Cup Series and wins this year. He's been the fastest car.
Yeah.
On the season.
Yeah.
You're not betting a guy who just all of a sudden popped. It's not like that's Ross Chastain at 7.5 to 1, which there'd be no effing way I would get in on that.
God, Ross Chastain catching strays. Yeah, I like Byron a lot.
Yeah.
Denny is the name that I keep kind of gravitating towards, but I haven't pulled the trigger. So I'm Byron, and that's it at this range. I like the Kyle Busch shout, but I'm gonna let you ride that lightning by yourself, sir. Ryan Blaney 9 or 10 to 1 as long as 11. Tyler Reddick can get as long as 12. Chase Elliott as long as 14. Chastain as long as 14.
Chastain is added. I am not making the same mistake last week where I did not bet the guy's hat who I was rocking. So
he's been like, I keep lining up for punishment and I keep getting picked in the junk, and I'm so tired of it. I probably should bet it, and this could be a Nashville situation, and I'll probably hate myself, but I don't know.
I just think it's weird that, like, we've played this cat and mouse game with Chastain's numbers all season, where if he opens really short, everyone avoids him, and then he probably doesn't do very well in qualifying, and then you jump on the number. Whereas this week, people were up in the air. He qualifies amazing, has a decent practice, and the line is still beyond 10 to 1, and people are still questioning it. It's like, at some point you have to try to make a decision. Like, this is a value bet on Chastain. Yeah. Starting on the front row, his car clearly has short run speed if he's able to do that. The dude had an incredible lap in the first round of qualifying. Like,
You're speaking facts, spitting facts. Like, it's legitimately, like, I don't know. Like, this range is interesting. I think Ryan Blaney at 10 or 11. I think Chase Elliott, which is something I never thought I would say, but everything
and Chastain, for like everything he's done this year at the 1.5 like intermediate high speed tracks, he's been great. He's had a ton of speed.
Yeah. And Chastain, like, I don't know, he was fine in practice. He wasn't screaming fast, but he was obviously able to get it there. I think he can do enough to make some serious noise.
And for what it's worth, on Chastain's like average practice numbers, a lot of the times, if unless you're looking at like lap by lap comparable data, sometimes the averages get skewed by, say, a driver punts a lap, or he makes a mistake on one lap and it makes that lap over a second, longer than every lap else. It affects the averages.
Or they come in and make a change, realize that chain doesn't work, and then come back.
And that's exactly what he did. And that's why, like, Chastain, when you look at what he did in practice, he's in the 37.7, 37.8 range, which is right up near the guys that ran the best laps in practice.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm adding him.
Let's go.
Yeah. I mean,
and again, I'm gonna say it, man. It is hotter than freaking hell outside in the majority of the country, and everybody loves themselves some watermelon this time of year. So I am looking forward to if Chastain can smash that damn thing.
Yep. I like that. I like where your head's at. Joey Logano, I like this week. I don't love him as an outright, but I think top 5, top 10 to fastest forward, that kind of stuff. I think he'll find a way to finagle it to the front. You can get Brad K as long as 20. You can get Kevin Harvick as long as 18. We got Bubba as long as 22. Ty Gibbs. I am adding Alex Bowman at 25.
I knew you would. Of course you would. You have to.
I wish I had just added him at 40 or whatever he was. I probably should have done that, but I didn't, because Alex Bowman had looked so bad, but he has looked fast. And I'm really not, like, obviously not getting as good of a price, but 25 is still pretty good for a guy that I think has a legitimate chance to win and was fast and actually showed the stuff that we expect. And, Chris Buescher, like, don't let me skip over anybody you're potentially considering adding. I think like the Joey, Brad, Harvick group are interesting, but more like placements, not
Yeah,
outright.
exactly. Yeah. And then like even Bubba, I have him on the card 16-1 just because he didn't have the fastest times. I can't go back to the well even at a slightly longer number. If it was like double the number, I think on Wormy's pre-race poll he mentioned there was a 30-1 somewhere. If I could get that, I would probably dabble with that, but
Yeah.
22 is probably a little bit too short of a move.
Yeah, Brad at 20 is fine. It's just the Fords were so disappointing all weekend so far. I'm a little concerned that he can't get there. So I'm not betting at Philly, but I wouldn't blame anybody who got there. And then we're looking at lottery tickets. You can still get Austin Dillon as long as 150. We talked about Dinger. You can get as long as 200. Probably better like top 10 bets than anything. And I think that's kind of the rest of the way. Anyone else you want to hit on before we jump over to finishing positions and whatnot?
Yeah, I have no. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, we missed out on the freaking Chris Buescher ridiculously long number last week.
Yeah, but like as much as we love Chris Buescher, like is he going to win back-to-back races? Like I think he'll be strong today, but I don't know. Like I'd much rather. Wormy was talking about this in his pre-race poll, 8-1 to be top Ford. Like I'd much rather bet that, especially knowing what we know at this current point. Okay. So let's look at top 10s. We'll look at some factory stuff. We'll look at some.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna lose my ass on these top 10s this week because
I
going
can't
way
wait.
too
It's
heavy.
gonna be so good. All right. So Bell, like a lot of these guys are overpriced.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott minus 150. Philly, are you asking for an outright bet? I like Ross. Ross is on my card. Chase is not. So, but I do like Chase to be really solid today.
Yeah,
It'll be
I'm right there with Kyle. I like Chase in placements like top 10, top 5, and I would rather go to the outright market with Chastain.
Yeah, I think Chastain's range of outcomes is wider. And it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I'm going to listen to kind of what Chase and his team are talking about today during the race. If they feel like they have a rocket ship that they can push, even if I don't get quite as good a number, it might be a better live opportunity. I think they're happier. I think they're understanding they can get in with points, and I think they're not going to push it unless they absolutely have to. So at this point, I like a top 10, top 5 matchup bet rather than an outright on him. Harvick.
And for what it's worth, staying on the Elliott top 10, he's minus 135 at Barstool. So my best bet earlier in the week was Chase Elliott top 10 from Bet Rivers at minus 134. I am adding another bet on Chase Elliott minus 135 from Barstool.
I am too, and I don't like him, so that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, it just he's in a position now where he cannot risk making a dangerous decision to try to win a race and potentially wrecking out to where they're going to probably make sure they get a top 10 finish.
So Bowman's top 10 is down to plus 100. It's fine. I think I'd rather look at like a top 5 or top Chevy or something or an hour, obviously the outright to get paid out. But
if you listen to Wormy, he thinks Bowman is like right there with Busch and Byron in terms of potential today,
which is crazy. So
yeah,
I think that makes sense. Austin Dillon at 4.5-1. The Dinger at 5-1 to top 10.
Go over to FanDuel, baby. Plus 550 for Dinger top 10.
See, like if I'm gonna take a little bit of a shot, like I'd much rather take Dinger than Austin Dillon.
Yeah, Dillon is fine, and I think we're kind of There's a little bit of bad mouthing about Austin Dillon because of his embarrassing helmet throw a couple of weeks ago, but he's a guy who in the past we've kind of backed at these higher speed type tracks. He's always somebody to keep an eye on at the Daytonas, Talladegas, Atlantas. Michigan, he's done pretty well too, but the difference in those two cars, the 8 and the 3 this year, is so dramatic. I just don't trust Dillon to keep it on all four and not wind up getting involved in whatever type of shenanigans happen in the middle of the field with him trying to battle for a top 10.
What's FanDuel got on Eric Jones top 10? Because I think I'm going to double down, even though he didn't look amazing.
So he's 5-1 at FanDuel, but if you're on Caesars and you go to the featured matchups, he's a bonus play or a boost plus 575 to top 10.
Okay, that's going on the card.
Which I also added. Like, if you're going to give me
6-1. Yeah.
Small bet. Small bet.
Oh, yeah. So I added some of that. Priest and LaJoy, 12-1. Don't hate it. You're looking for, obviously it's more of a small play lottery ticket, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I so wish we had top 20 markets, man. Like Ty Dillon, he's like 17-1 to top 10. He'd probably be like 5-1 to top 20.
Interesting here. Truex, Byron, and Bell are all plus 210 for top threes. Denny Hamlin, Larson, Kyle Busch plus 250. I don't hate that. If you want to add a little protection to your outright card, just understand that.
Don't worry.
Just understand that if you're this is Harvick's best track, but the Fords have not looked good. I don't know, like, what's his top 5 price?
Who, Harv?
Yeah.
It's probably inflated.
It's plus 220 now. And it was like plus 105 or something when we talked earlier in the week. You're getting some good numbers if you believe in him and his long-term success at this track, but
the thing, though, is I would much rather back Keselowski this week than Kevin Harvick. RFK has looked so much better than SHR.
Keselowski and Harvick are both minus 120. So, yeah, you're probably onto it.
And again, so that Keselowski top 10, I don't hate that.
Yeah, but it's not going on the card officially. Dillon was 9th at Charlotte. He was 13th at Michigan last year. That's a good point, Devils. I mean, it's a good number if you want. Like, it's much more palatable now than it was prior to practice and qualifying. But it's just, it's just Austin Dillon. But he's been okay. Top Ford, Ryan Blaney, Logano. See, like, if you like Harvick or Keselowski, I'd much rather go top Ford than Dilly Dally and the.
Honestly, I would just skip them and go Buescher.
Yeah, I think these three are the only ones that are truly bettable.
Yeah, because Blaney is going to have some type of F up on pit road. It's inevitable at this point.
1,000%. That's why, like, even on top Toyota, like Hamlin, I guess. I don't know. I don't trust Bell all day. Bowman at 9-1.
Truex is the only one of that group that I trust on pit road.
Yeah.
Maybe Ty Gibb, but
nah, I don't trust
not
him.
for those numbers though, either.
Okay, let's look at a couple matchups and then we can get out of here. Can you check Twitter to make sure we're actually going live or the race is starting here in like 15 minutes?
Yeah, so they're doing the national anthem right now.
Okay, perfect. So they did move it up and everything's good to go. All right, so we got last few bets here before the race starts. So Harvick versus Reddick. I mean, I'd much rather go with Harvick in a spot like this just to be solid.
With the plus money, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to add that. That's what, 120. Chastain versus Logano. Like, I would rather, like, I like the idea of taking Chastain outright and then kind of fading him in matchups Because if he has the rough day, then you cash all these outrights or cash all that. But if he wins, then you win. Interesting way to play it. Byron still is a big favorite over Bell, which I think is interesting. Obviously, both guys were pretty solid in practice.
Wow, interesting. That line has moved pretty drastically already this morning.
Which way?
Towards Byron for sure, because I think it was plus money on Byron this morning.
Yep. If you guys have any last minute questions for bets or stuff you're looking at, please throw them in the chat. Probably going to wrap up here in about 5 minutes. Eric Jones versus Austin Dillon could be an interesting way to attack that. I think I'm going to do
Byron
it.
is still plus 105 at DK over Bell, by the way.
Okay, so if you want some Byron, go over to DK. That's why you always shop it.
Yep.
For the best of the number. All right.
Also at DK, that's going to get added to my card. Bowman over Ty Gibbs at plus 105.
Oh, baby.
Needless to say, I am either going to be extremely happy this week or...
And needless to say, there's a lot of cross exposure, so we're effed. Yeah, that's usually never a good sign. So fade us, take Gibbs, take Dillon, take Reddick. Where was that at? DK?
DK.
Yeah. All right. So we have, I think if you like Larson, I think plus 100 against Denny is really nice.
Yes, I do. I do like that a lot.
I'm actually. Can I dare take Richard Stenhouse as a favorite against Almirola at minus 120?
Who is more likely to get in a wreck?
Well, I mean, one of them's named Ricky Spinouts. One of them's not. Stop using facts and logic to make me ruin.
That's all I gotta say. Like, there's too much volatility in that matchup to even entertain it for me.
Yeah. Bowman over Gibbs, I like. Elliott over Bell.
The thing is, Bell is fast. It's just
he is.
Like, I don't know if Elliott has a race-winning car.
No, but I'm not asking him to win the race. I'm asking Christopher Bell to have a bad day, and I'm getting plus 140 to do it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting too much more crazy.
No, I haven't even caught up to you, and I've added like 5 bets, so I think that tells you I got some room to do. Okay, I think that's it. Did you guys have any other thoughts? Yeah, we have this week, so we'll be live this obviously today, and then through the rest of the month, and then once September hits, we'll be back to pre-recorded as football's here, but we will be live. So if you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure you are subscribed and hitting the like button. Also, we are here each and every Thursday, sometimes with special guests. We will be having Chris Werme on in the next couple weeks to do like a little playoff prep. So we'll get that going as well. If you want to throw some thoughts in the questions before we get out of here, please let us know. Otherwise, Brian, let's recap our cards. Let's give the people our favorite bets and let's get out of here. So I have Willie B 10-1. I have what is this? This must be top 10. Yeah. I have Willie B, Ross Chastain at 14, and Alex Bowman. I have Logano top 10, Bowman top 10, Eric Jones top 10. I went Byron over C Bell at plus money as my best bet prior to practice and qualifying. Obviously, we've seen it move. You can still get them. What minus 105 was the best number we got right now?
I think it was plus 105 for
105,
Byron.
even better. Elliott minus 135. Dinger top 10 at plus 550. Eric Jones 575. Harvick over Reddick just because of the number. Jones over Dillon because of the number. Bowman over Gibbs because of the number. And Elliott over Bell because of the number. Brian Twining, you have Bubba, Bush, Chastain. That's it. And then
that's it for my outrights.
Elliott at minus 134 was your best bet prior. Elliott over Bell was the was your matchup prior. You added Chase Elliott at minus 135 for some more exposure. Dinger top 10, Bubba top 10, Jones top 10, Kyle Busch top 5, Byron over Marty Party, Busch over Marty Party, Chastain over Keselowski, Bowman over Gibbs, and Chase Elliott to win stage 1 at 13-1. I don't hate
And the
that.
reason why I like that bet, a lot of people probably think it's crazy, is that to Devil's point here, Elliott doesn't need to push that hard to win this race with the road courses coming up where he excels at. And so I think they're going to try to get as many points or playoff points as possible. So they may be on a strategy early to try to win stage 1, kind of, off pitch strategy from everybody else. So 13 to 1, small dabble. I think it's a decent play.
I think that makes sense. And if get a few stage points and then have a solid finish, and and keep that, and that's why we're talking about kind of the point in rather than winning a race to get in. So
Exactly.
And with Alex Bowman needing to win to get in, maybe they are willing to let Bowman try and get the win and have Chase just have a strong top 5 day and kind of figure it out. So Brian Twining, as we sit here moments before the race, who is your best bet?
It's going to be matchup. I love fading this guy. I think he'll have a decent run, but not as good as the guy's hat that I'm rocking, and that's going to be Chastain over Keselowski. I'm just going with the 2-unit play here. I'm way too exposed for this race to try to go too much bigger there, but yeah, I like myself some Watermelon Man today, and hopefully he's smashing a watermelon at the end of the day.
Sounds great. I love it. I love where your head's at. I am going to go. I'm on the Alex Bowman train. I'm going to fade Ty Gibbs. I think Bowman over Gibbs is an amazing matchup. And I can't believe I'm getting plus money to do that. So I am going to jump on that. Enjoy the race. We'll see. And then we'll see. Yeah, hopefully we cash some winners. Hopefully we win on DraftKings. And we'll talk to you guys next time.